Hello, friends. If you've been with us from the beginning, you've already gotten familiar with Dart, and now we're moving on to the next stage, learning Flutter. Today's lesson will cover the basic concepts that mark the beginning of working with Flutter. We'll talk about what widgets are and introduce key elements like runApp, MaterialApp, and Scaffold. This lesson is designed for those who have never coded in Flutter, so don't worry if you're a beginner. It will all be clear and straightforward. The first and most important concept you need to understand in Flutter is widgets. Widgets are the building blocks of your application. Simply put, everything you see in a Flutter app is a widget. Buttons, text, input fields, images, all of these are widgets. There are two types of widgets: static, stateless, and dynamic, stateful. Static widgets do not change after creation like text or images. Dynamic widgets can change during the app's execution, like a counter that updates when you press a button. Your entire application will consist of many widgets that, like building blocks, will come together to form a beautiful and functional app. Moreover, your entire app itself will be a widget because, as we've learned, everything in Flutter is a widget. For example, the app itself is a widget that consists of many other widgets. Likewise, a screen is also a widget made up of other widgets. In other words, your app is a collection of nested widgets. Now, let's talk about the first important step when launching a Flutter app: the runApp function. Remember, we skipped it in the first lessons? This function is the entry point for your Flutter app. This function takes one parameter of the type widget. In Flutter, since everything is a widget, we have an abstract class called Widget. There are also abstract classes for stateless widget and stateful widget. These two classes inherit from the widget class. Widgets that render UI, like text, images, and so on, are usually inherited from stateless widget. This creates a sort of hierarchy where everything is a widget. Let's start breaking down the main widgets. We'll begin with the widget called MaterialApp. It's necessary for creating an app, and it's what we'll pass into runApp. Note that it inherits from stateful widget, which means it's a dynamic widget. In the next video, we'll dive into the difference between them. For now, try running our app. To see what we have, we need to display the running devices. This tab is on the right in Android Studio, and we need to expand it. You'll see your emulator, which you created in the first lessons. After running the code, we see an app with a black screen. We see the black screen because we haven't created any screens or UI elements. Let's try minimizing the app using the emulator controls. Opening the list of all apps, we'll notice our app, which is named after the project we created. It has the default Flutter icon. Now, let's continue exploring widgets. First, let's look at the constructor of the MaterialApp widget. It has many named parameters such as theme, title, home, and so on. To create our first screen, we need to pass the home parameter. This parameter is of type widget. Keep in mind that when writing a Flutter app, it's very common to move to a new line, especially when passing values to a constructor. This is done to improve code readability, as we often need to pass many parameters to a widget, and moving to a new line prevents them from piling up in one place. Back to the home parameter. We need to pass a widget of the type Scaffold into it. This is our second widget for today. It's like the framework for your app. With it, you can create the basic structure of the app's screen, such as the top bar, bottom navigation, or floating button. Let's try running our code again. Now, we see a white background instead of black because white is the default color of the Scaffold widget. The Scaffold class also has a constructor with named parameters such as appBar, body, and so on. The main parameter is arguably body, which takes in the primary UI that the user sees. Let's pass a simple widget into it, like text. As the name suggests, this widget allows us to add text to our UI. This class also has a constructor with named parameters such as style, text align, and so on. But it also has one required positional parameter. This parameter is of type string, which, as we can guess, is used to pass the text we want to display. Let's try creating the text "Hello World." We've now constructed a small widget tree where the root widget is MaterialApp. Let's run the program and see what we've got. At first glance, nothing has changed, but if we zoom in, we'll notice our text hidden in the corner behind the notification shade. This happened because we didn't specify the position for our text. Special widgets are used for positioning widgets on the screen. For example, there is a widget called Center. If we wrap another widget, in this case the text, inside the center widget, it will move to the center. Let's do just that. First, delete our text widget and start writing Center. Take note of the parameters in its constructor. It has 4 named parameters, but the main one for us is child. This is where we'll pass the widget we want to center. The child parameter is of type widget, and it's nullable, meaning we can omit it. However, not specifying it makes no sense since we won't have anything to center. Let's pass our text as the child. Run the program again. As you can see, this time our text is perfectly centered, but to center the widget, we had to delete and rewrite it, which isn't very convenient, especially if we need to center an entire widget tree. Instead, we can use our IDE's help. To do this, place the cursor on the widget you want to center and press Alt plus Enter. A menu will open where we can wrap our widget in another widget. In this case, we're interested in the center widget, so let's select it. Now we have 2 center widgets, one for the text and another for the center itself. This is illogical, so let's remove one. We can do this manually or again use Alt plus Enter. At the bottom of the menu, there is an option called Remove Widget, which will remove the widget without breaking our widget tree's structure. So, today we were introduced to the basic concepts of Flutter, widgets, the runApp function, and the MaterialApp, Scaffold, Center, and Text widgets. Now you know how to build the foundation of your app and organize its structure. At this point, a lot may seem confusing and complicated, but don't worry. After a few lessons, things will become much clearer. In future lessons, we'll dive deeper into the topic of widgets, learn how to create our own widgets, and add interactivity to our app. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos and leave your questions in the comments. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next lesson.